revealed how one incredible black maid transformed the lives of millionaire twins in 30 days. Ethan and Alex were your average millionaire twins living in a sprawling estate in North Carolina. From the outside, they had it all: luxury cars, designer suits, and access to exclusive parties. But inside, their emotional lives were a desolate wasteland, suffocated by the weight of expectations. Raised by a single mother whose grit alone financed their privileged upbringing, they barely spoke outside business ventures. Their lives were a monotone of stock market discussions, devoid of laughter or warmth. Then came Clara, a spirited maid in her 40s, hired by their mother in hopes of injecting some heart into their cold world. From the first day, the twins rolled their eyes at her presence, viewing her as just another inconvenience. Clara, with her infectious laughter and stories of overcoming hardship, seemed misplaced among their manicured lawns and sparkling chandeliers. Yet, as she dusted shelves lined with trophies of their family's success, she couldn't ignore the heartbreaking silence that hung between the twins. To her, they were like beautifully crafted statues, perfectly sculpted, but devoid of life. One fateful evening, Clara overheard them arguing, words spewing like venom over a new investment deal, each brother's tone steeped in resentment. It was so far removed from the chaos of her own life that she felt compelled to speak. "You know what?" she interrupted, her eyes fierce and sincere. "You both are more than the deals you make. Your mother raised you to stand tall, but you're hiding behind your wealth. Life is about community and resilience, not just success." At first, they dismissed her, bristling at the intrusion. But as Clara spoke with a passion that lit fires in their bellies, they couldn't help but feel a spark of curiosity. How could someone so different from them possess a wisdom that felt both terrifying and intriguing? Days turned into weeks, and Clara convinced them to volunteer at a local shelter. The first time they walked in, their nerves were thick, but the faces of those they met, a mother cradling her children, a veteran with weary eyes, stopped them in their tracks. This was a world so alien to them. It wasn't just a different wavelength, it was a different universe. They cringed at their discomfort, but Clara's encouragement echoed in their minds. Then came that big family gathering. They had planned it as a celebration for their latest business achievement, but what erupted was chaos, a raw explosion of repressed emotions and old wounds. In the heat of the moment, Clara also ended up at the center, her gaze piercing through their pretenses. "You two are so lost in your ivory towers, you've forgotten what it means to truly connect." Her words froze the room, sending shivers down their spines. The emotions that had simmered beneath the surface erupted as tears burned in Ethan's eyes and Alex's clenched fists trembled with unacknowledged pain. Clara's passionate challenge echoed within those cavernous walls of wealth, igniting a desperate, gnawing need to confront that which they had long avoided. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In that emotionally charged moment, everything shifted. Their entire existence suddenly felt meaningless against the vibrant realities of those at the shelter. Clara embodied everything they'd overlooked, not just lessons of wealth, but real connections, compassion, and resilience. With a single confrontation, their bubble of privilege threatened to burst. What would they do? Now, as the night lingered on, quiet revelations dissolved barriers, leaving them at a precipice, an emotional crossroads where the allure of their cushioned lives beckoned to them. Yet the promise of genuine connection lured them into an uncertain future. Could Clara truly transform their lives, or would they retreat back into their golden cage? The answer loomed ahead, waiting for them to take a leap. Ethan and Alex stood there, shaken and unsure. The house felt different now, the air thicker with unspoken words. Clara's voice lingered in their minds, filling the empty spaces that typically buzzed with conversations about investments and portfolio management. What just happened? Ethan finally broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. "Did we really just tear into each other like that?" Alex asked, still trying to comprehend the chaos they had unleashed. He rubbed his temples, trying to soothe the headache forming from the emotional roller coaster. They both glanced toward the kitchen, where Clara had excused herself, leaving them to grapple with their emotions. It felt strange to be hit with the truth so squarely. The luxurious trappings of their lives seemed to dull in contrast to the vibrant lives of those they had met at the shelter. The faces of the people they encountered, the mother's protective gaze, the veteran's distant sigh, all swirled in their minds, echoing the shared struggles of humanity. Maybe she's right, Ethan said slowly, each word feeling heavier than the last. We've become these business machines. Nothing but numbers and deals. What is left of us? He sank into a nearby armchair, his expression muddled with confusion. Alex stood near the window, looking out at their estate, the manicured lawns, the extravagant fountains. It's just I don't know how to break free from this. His fingers clenched the curtain, pulling it tighter around him, as if hoping to shield himself from the growing realization of their isolation. What do we do? Ethan leaned forward, a hint of desperation coloring his question. For the first time, the twins were faced not only with their emotional disconnect, but with the truth of their own privilege. They had been so steeped in wealth and success that they'd forgotten how it felt to connect on a personal level. Clara had opened the floodgates, and they stood at the edge of a decision that felt monumental. After a long moment, Alex finally took a deep breath. What if we went back to the shelter tomorrow? Maybe we can learn more. Maybe we can do something real, something meaningful. Ethan looked up, a mixture of uncertainty and hope glinting in his eyes. Are we ready for that? It's one thing to feel bad, but did we really have the guts to face our fears? A flicker of determination crossed Alex's face. We won't know unless we try. The next morning dawned brighter than usual, sunlight streaming into their rooms and nudging them awake. Something felt different. As they prepared for the day, the air buzzing with a new kind of energy, they dressed without the customary weight of obligation. Each article of clothing felt like a choice, not a requirement. When they arrived at the shelter, anxiety danced in their bellies. But Clara was there with her warm smile, and the moment felt charged. You came back, she exclaimed, her excitement infectious. Yeah, Ethan said, his heart racing. We're ready to learn, to really connect. As they stepped deeper into this new world, they found themselves enveloped by a warmth they hadn't realized they craved. Conversations sparked easily as they interacted with volunteers and guests alike, little by little breaking down walls they had built around themselves. It didn't solve everything, but it was a start. Yet, amid the growing hope and curiosity, a subtle fear lingered at their edges. What would these new connections mean for their old lives? And as they recalled the recent chaos of their family gathering full of hurt and hidden truths, could the twins truly embrace this journey without losing sight of where they came from? Just as they began to find their footing, Clara gathered everyone for a group discussion. Her gaze scanned the crowd, and suddenly her eyes locked onto the twins. I can see you both are changing, she said, a knowing smile gracing her lips. But remember, change can be a double-edged sword. Are you ready to face the unknown? Her question hung heavy in the air, leaving Ethan and Alex exchanging glances filled with anticipation and dread. What truths awaited them in this brave new venture? Clara's voice washed over the room, pulling attention back to the present. The other participants, a tapestry of ages and experiences, leaned in, drawn to the twins as if sensing the invisible thread of their transformation. Ethan felt a flush creep up his cheeks. What if they weren't ready for this change? He murmured to Alex, his eyes wide. What have we gotten ourselves into? Before Alex could respond, Clara spoke again. Sometimes, it's the hardest truths that lead to the greatest transformations. I want you all to partner up and share your stories, how you got here, what you hope for. Don't hold back. A ripple went through the group as clusters formed. Volunteers and guests gravitated towards one another, the voices growing louder and more animated. Ethan felt a weight settle in his chest. What story would he tell? His mind raced through his life, the places he'd been, the things he'd done, but it all felt so shallow compared to the realities he had encountered at the shelter. Alex nudged Ethan. Come on, let us share ours together, he insisted, his enthusiasm contrasting with Ethan's hesitance. We were born into money, Ethan started, trying to mask the discomfort weaving through him. But I think I forgot what that means for people who don't have it. He glanced at Alex, who nodded in encouragement. Yeah, Alex chimed in. It's like we've lived in this bubble. People think living wealthy means living well, but we're starting to see it's not true. Their admission hung in the air, drawing sharp glances and nods of understanding. Around them, people shared their struggles, losses, moments of joy, and aspirations, and Ethan became aware of the warmth igniting in their words. Each story felt like peeking behind a curtain and seeing life laid bare. Ethan felt something shift. Their privilege, once a shield, began to feel like a weight dragging them down. He met the eyes of a young man, Tyler, who shared about his dreams of starting an art collective after overcoming homelessness. The way Tyler spoke, passion bright in his gaze, ignited something in Ethan that he couldn't quite name. I've never really dreamed like that, Ethan admitted, glancing at Clara. I always thought I didn't have to. Look at what you just did, Clara interjected gently. You can't dream until you understand the depth of desire. Now, it's not about the money or the status. It's about what your heart wants to build. With every shared story, the twins felt the layers of their identities peeling away. By the end of the session, Ethan looked to Alex, the dawning understanding evident in both their eyes. They had a chance to rewrite the narrative of their lives. They could dig into something real that as the discussion wound down. Clara pulled the group back together. Remember, sharing is only the beginning. None of this stops here. We need to support each other. Some of us have connections that can propel dreams forward. Maybe that's where you come in? Ethan felt a flicker of hope coursing through him, but also a pulse of fear. What could they do? They had all the money, yet so little understanding. Would help from them only complicate matters? But as Clara's gaze met his, a spark ignited, filling him with a mix of courage and vulnerability. The question still trembled in the back of his mind. Might they be able to influence lives, yet risk losing themselves in the process? Just as the room filled with a charged energy of excitement and possibility, Clara posed one last question, her eyes sparkling with challenge. How willing are you to face the shadows of your past while stepping into your future? Ethan's heart raced, the question echoing within him. Were they really ready to confront the shadows? What lay hidden in their own stories waiting to be revealed? As the laughter and chatter filled the room around them, the twins found themselves at another crossroads. What awaited them in this uncertain dance of consequence and change? Ethan's mind buzzed with Clara's question as the group began to disperse, forming tighter circles to dive deeper into their discussions. The weight of his own past pressed down on him. He stole a glance at Alex, who was lost in conversation with Tyler, the hopeful artist. There was a fire in Alex's eyes Ethan hadn't seen in a while. It made Ethan feel both proud and a little envious. Are we really going to do this? He asked himself. The timid voice in his head screamed uncertainty, a reminder of every fear he ever had about failure and exposure. He took a breath, steeling himself before stepping away from the crowd. The noise faded into a dull hum as he stood at the edge of the room, his heart hammering in his chest. He watched the people around him sharing laughter and tears, their vulnerability revealing raw truth. What did he have to offer? He had lived in a golden cage. Comfort led him away from reality. It was easy to avoid the shadows when surrounded by wealth. Clara approached him, her serene presence breaking through his internal storm. You look deep in thought, Ethan. I guess I'm just thinking, he said, his voice quieter than he intended. Thinking about what? She prompted, her eyes steady, urging him to reflect. About how little I've really experienced. I come from privilege, but I feel like I don't know anything about real life. I mean, look at everything people have shared. It's powerful. I just feel, he hesitated, shallow. Clara smiled knowingly. Remember, Ethan, it's never too late to start. Sometimes, the most profound transformations begin with the smallest acts of bravery. What do you want to change? He hesitated again, the words stuck in his throat like a knot. Did he dare to open up about his frustrations? I want to make a difference, but I have no clue where to start. Her gaze pierced through him. Maybe it starts by acknowledging that difference yourself. The fact you care already puts you miles ahead. Before he could respond, Ethan felt a nudge from behind. It was Tyler, now beside him, barely breathless from the excitement. Hey man, you should come join our group. We're brainstorming how we can take what we've shared and put it into action. You need to share your ideas. We can't often think of anything without that outside perspective. Ethan hesitated but felt a pull toward the energy emanating from Tyler. The budding artist's enthusiasm was infectious. He glanced at Alex, who looked back at him, a silent affirmation in his eyes. "Okay, I'll give it a shot," Ethan said, a twinge of hope sparking within him that as they broke back into smaller groups, the room abuzz with ideas and aspirations. Ethan felt the shadows of his past watch him. But with each story shared and each connection made, the weight began to seem lighter. He witnessed others revealing wounds and dreams, transforming pain into purpose. It was strangely beautiful. Hours passed, weaving stories together, while laughter mingled with vulnerability. Clara floated around the room, her presence an enigmatic blend of support and challenge, asking the right questions that made everyone think a little deeper. Just as he began to feel comfortable sharing his thoughts, a voice interrupted the flow. A woman at the other end of the room raised her hand, and the chatter subsided. "I just want to say it's powerful to see the generations in this room, but I can't help but feel there's something we're missing. There's a piece of the puzzle we need to find. What is it?" Ethan's breath caught. The question hung heavy in the air, like a flashing warning sign. What were they missing? Queasiness washed over him. Was this the moment that could shatter everything they built? As murmurs filled the room again, he felt the tension coiling around him. This was the moment when everything could change. Would they face the truth together or stay in their familiar comfort zones? Ethan looked around at the faces, hopeful, eager, yet tinged with uncertainty. His heart thudded in rhythm with the shares of those around him, but he sensed the shadows lurking just beyond the light. Yet he felt ready to step forward. Was he? As the discussions deepened, an answer remained dangling just out of reach, yet the stirring inside him whispered that embracing their shared truths could unlock a door they never knew existed. What truth would be revealed next? Ethan felt the weight of the room settle around him. The hesitation hung like a cloud, thick and heavy. While others engaged in animated debates, a spark of fear flickered within him. Was he truly ready to peel back the layers? Just a few moments ago, the thought of exposing himself felt unbearable. But Clara's encouraging words echoed louder than the doubts in his mind. He took a deep breath, the kind that urges change, pushing through the tightness in his chest. With a quick glance around, he made the conscious decision to step into that unknown. I think what we might be missing is honesty," he said, his voice carrying a surprising strength as it cut through the murmur of conversation. Everyone turned to him, their expressions shifting from curiosity to intrigue. Clara smiled, an encouraging spark igniting in her eyes. "Honesty?" Someone murmured softly, inviting Ethan to go deeper. "Yeah," he continued, feeling something shift within him. "Like, really being honest about who we are, where we come from, and what holds us back. I've been afraid to really show up, afraid of being judged or not having enough to offer. But maybe that's our biggest hurdle." The group absorbed his words, some nodding, while others leaned in closer. It felt as if the air buzzed with anticipation. "I was born into privilege, and I grew up in a bubble," he admitted, vulnerability wrapping around him like a blanket. "But being here, hearing all your stories, showing me the raw truth behind your lives, it's kind of humbling. I want to contribute, but I realize I've got a lot to learn about others and even about myself." "Thank you for sharing that, Ethan," Clara said softly, her gaze steady. "Your willingness to be honest is already a step forward. It takes courage to confront your own truths." A wave of warmth surged through him. He looked around, seeing the flickering lights of understanding in their eyes. There was unity here, a strange comfort in shared discomfort. Conversations resumed again, but this time, they looked different. Hope hung in the air like a promise. Suddenly, an older gentleman with a weathered face held up a hand. "You know, I think we often hide behind what we believe we should be. The real treasure is in embracing our scars. Each one tells a story, and collectively, they make us human." The room grew silent again, encouraged by the weight of his words. Ethan felt a sense of liberation. This was a moment not just for him, but for everyone. Tyler jumped in, his voice erupting with excitement. "What if we start from those stories? Let us create a project around them: film, art, anything that showcases our truths. We could transform our vulnerabilities into something powerful." The room exploded in ideas, and creativity flowed freely, like an electric current. Individual narratives pulsed into a collective vision, and the prospect of sharing their realities ignited a fire within them all. It was as if they had woven an invisible thread binding their experiences together. But the question lingered above all: what if exposing those truths changed everything? What if they couldn't go back to how things were before? The fear of failure swirled around Ethan, but alongside it, he felt exhilaration. As discussions deepened, a serene silence fell again. There was one thing they needed to address gently: the fear of judgment. They had come this far. Could they really dismantle the walls they had built? Ethan sensed the pivotal moment approaching. "Let us embrace this together," he said, adrenaline fueling his words. "Let us create a space where we can share not just our triumphs, but our failures, without fear. Because in our mess, there is magic." "What do you say?" Everyone looked at each other, weighing his words. The decision hung in the air, a golden opportunity waiting to be snatched. Eyes glistened with possibility, and even the shadows felt lighter. But would they all step into the light together? Would they dare to discover the truths they had hidden away for so long? Ethan held his breath, waiting for a response as a hush fell over the group. The silence was palpable, stretching across the room like a thin, fragile thread. Ethan felt his heart race, his palms slightly clammy. Would they accept the challenge? Would they step forward into this new chapter together? Clara broke the stillness first. "I'm in," she declared, her voice rich with conviction. "I've spent too many years pretending that everything was fine. I want to dig deeper." A ripple of murmurs swelled from the group. Each person started to share their feelings, fears mixed with sparks of excitement. One by one, individuals voiced their agreement, some even standing with determined expressions. Tyler, his energy contagious, took a couple of steps forward, eyes alive with possibilities. "This is it. We're going to make something beautiful," he said, animatedly waving his hands as if conducting an orchestra. "Let us brainstorm ideas. The medium doesn't matter. It's our stories that matter." Ethan felt a surge of gratitude towards Clara and Tyler. Their belief sparked momentum in others. Lisa, a woman with a gentle smile, suggested, "Why don't we create a mural? We can paint our stories on a wall, a visual representation of our lives, our struggles, and our triumphs." A surge of enthusiasm ignited. Discussions kicked off left and right, and it felt as if the room had transformed into a canvas filled with vibrant strokes of hope and shared experiences. The conversations flowed seamlessly, spilling into laughter and passionate debates about themes and colors. Ideas merged, blending perspectives, each person slowly peeling back layers of their history. But as the momentum built, Ethan felt that same darkness creeping back in. The thought of vulnerability loomed just over the horizon. What if, in facing their truths, they uncovered something painful or unmanageable? The very idea twisted in his stomach. Still, he couldn't let that caution turn to fear. "Guys, this is fantastic," Ethan started, trying to balance his enthusiasm with authenticity. "But we should also think about how we'll handle the deeper things. What if someone wants to share something heavy? Something that might bring us down?" A momentary pause silenced the chatter, and a few faces fell. "I think it's all part of the process," Clara responded thoughtfully, her voice soothing the anxiety in the room. "We can still honor those feelings. We can take a moment and really support each other if it gets tough. It's about balance. Our stories don't just have to be overwhelming. They can also bring light, healing, joy." The group nodded, a newfound understanding settling in. They were forging a space not just to share, but to hold compassion for one another. As ideas flowed, what started as individual threads came together to create an intricate tapestry of human experience. But just as Ethan felt the warmth of camaraderie enveloping him, a voice cut through that comfort. It was Ryan, a quiet presence who had been observing from the corner. "I admire this energy, but what if I can't share? What if I can't even find my story?" His eyes were wide, reflecting vulnerability, the very thing Ethan feared. Before he could respond, Clara leaned toward him earnestly. "Then that's okay. We start with baby steps. We truly don't need to etch it all now. Just bring what you have when you're ready." Ethan saw the tension in Ryan's shoulders ease slightly, but uncertainty still lingered in his gaze, mirroring worries in Ethan's heart. The blend of excitement and anxiety in the room embodied their struggle. This journey wasn't just about the stories, but about building trust, and finding safety in vulnerability. As the night wore on, they began forming groups, pairing off to brainstorm on how to represent their stories through the mural. All the while, Ethan wrestled with his own thoughts. Could he really open up? Would sharing his burdens make him stronger, or would it expose him to unimaginable pain? The questions buzzed in his head like fireflies, flickering against the backdrop of the growing hope they had built. And as laughter echoed and brushes danced in the air, Ethan felt the tension. Ease just a little more. But just as Concord descended, Clara suddenly paused. What if we included an element of surprise? Something unexpected in our stories to truly captivate those who will see this mural? Everyone stopped, their eyes wide with intrigue. It was a remarkable idea, but it posed a challenge. What would they reveal that was so stunning it would resonate beyond the walls they painted? Ethan felt warmth envelop him again as excitement pulsed through the air. He sensed they were reaching deeper into something monumental. Let us consider that he began, the thrill dripping off his words. What if we shared not just our victories, but our secrets? The things we hide in plain sight? He watched as they processed his words, the weight of his suggestion filling the room. Could they all truly venture down that path? Would discovery break them or bind them together forever? The challenge lingered, teetering on the edge of transformation, leaving Ethan breathless with anticipation. As the weight of Ethan's suggestion hung in the air, an electrifying silence fell over the room. It was as if they had collectively taken a deep breath, preparing to plunge into deeper waters. Clara, eyes sparkling with understanding, broke the stillness. Secrets can be scary, she began, her voice steady yet gentle. But it also beautiful to think that by revealing them, we can heal together. There's strength in vulnerability. Her words resonated deeply, each syllable striking a chord in those gathered, igniting a mixture of fear and excitement. Ryan shifted in his seat, fidgeting with his hands, his brow furrowed with thought. I've never really shared anything really, personal. What if my secret isn't good enough? Ryan, Tyler spoke up, his tone encouraging. Your truth is yours. Just because it might look different from someone else's doesn't make it less important. We all have our stories, whatever shape or color they come in. Ethan watched as Ryan's shoulders relaxed, a flicker of determination igniting in his eyes. It felt like a small victory, a moment of connection. They were inching closer to the heart of what this journey was about. Others started chiming in, sharing tales of their own apprehensions. Lisa smiled and said, I've carried my struggles alone for too long. I want to expose the light parts too. Maybe they illuminate the darker corners. With that, a wave of agreement echoed through the group, confidence building as vulnerability was embraced. Ethan felt the electric energy rise again, each person bravely shedding the layers that had once shielded them. What had begun as anxiety slowly morphed into camaraderie. The mural began to take shape in Ethan's mind, a testament to their intertwined stories, a bold tapestry depicting not just struggle, but resilience and strength. Let us start by writing it down, Clara suggested. Each of us can take a moment to jot down our secrets on a piece of paper. We don't need to share them all at once, but this way we can see what we're working with for our mural. Ethan noticed the tentative smiles forming. The idea of capturing their thoughts somehow made this whole venture feel tangible and safe. They broke into smaller circles, some pulling out pens and paper, others engaging in quiet discussions, reflecting on their internal battles. Ethan sat at the edge, watching the scene unfold. He felt a familiar knot tighten in his chest. Could he really lay bare what had been hidden for so long? Something in him ached to take that step, yet the hesitation tugged like a stubborn shadow. In that moment, he heard Tyler rise once more, his voice cracking just slightly with emotion. Look at us. Together, we're shaping an incredible story. Imagine standing in front of this mural one day, seeing our pain, our joy, our secrets woven into something so beautiful. Each brushstroke a part of who we are. The words resonated like melody, echoing hope. A soft smile crept into Ethan's face, and the weight on his heart began to lift. Maybe they could do this together. Maybe sharing their secrets would not only bind them, but strengthen them as individuals too. Suddenly, Clara called for attention again. All right, everyone. Before we start writing, let us take a moment to think of one thing we want this mural to say about us. What message do we want to send out into the world? As she spoke, Ethan felt a spark ignite in his chest. What indeed did he want to say? What message lay hidden behind his walls? The room was abuzz with thoughts, ideas rolling around like autumn leaves in the wind. The group began sharing their potential messages. Hope, one person said. Then another called out, resilience. Excited voices chimed in, creating a chorus of aspirations. But amidst the fervor, Ethan's heart thudded in his chest. What would he add? A message screamed at him from the depths, a yearning to transform pain into empowerment. But what if sharing it exposed him to the hurt he had tucked away? What if we wrote together, "We rise"? He suggested, the phrase slipping from his lips before he could think. Too long. The room quieted as everyone took in the notion, and then spirited affirmations erupted. Afterward, Ethan leaned back, surprised that he had contributed such a bold idea. The weight of shared hopes swirled like colors on an artist's palette, shifting brilliantly under the glow of newfound possibilities. The group began to write down their thoughts. A thrilling apprehension washed over him. It would be a leap into the unknown, but maybe, just maybe, that was where they would find their strength. And somewhere in that vibrant whirlpool of emotions and creativity, the question lingered. Would they all be brave enough to face the truths hidden beneath their own layers? Ethan's gaze drifted towards Ryan, whose pen hovered over the paper, uncertainty flashing across his face. Could they all make that leap, together? Or would the fear of exposure pull them back into silence once more? Ethan's heart raced as he watched Ryan wrestle with his thoughts. The room was alive with anticipation, each person caught in their unique struggle, yet moving together in this fragile space of safety. It felt almost surreal, the weight of their secrets becoming lighter as their words filled the air. Clara wove around the circles, her presence a comforting thread, encouraging others to express their fears. You know, she said to a group, sharing our vulnerabilities doesn't make us weak. It shows how strong we truly are. Her words wrapped around them like a warm blanket, pulling them closer together. Ryan finally set his pen down, his face flushed. I guess I've been so afraid of being judged. But if everyone here can be brave enough to share, even if it's just a small part, maybe I can too. His vulnerability lit a spark in Ethan's heart. He realized they were all on the edge of something profound, something that would not only bind them together, but would illuminate their lives in ways they hadn't imagined. Together, we rise, he thought again, the phrase echoing in his mind. It was more than a slogan, it was a commitment to each other. The murmurs and scribbles continued as people searched their souls for what they wanted to reveal. Lisa, who had previously shared her desire to shed light on shadows, was fervently writing, her brow furrowed in concentration. I'll share, she called out, her voice shaking slightly. I've dealt with loneliness, and it has made me feel invisible. I want to learn how to be seen. A chorus of supportive murmurs followed her declaration, fostering an atmosphere of acceptance and understanding. It was as if they were all lending each other their strength, brick by brick, to build something unshakable. Watching Lisa ignite her courage, Ethan felt a unique blend of inspiration and fear pulsating through him. He wanted to jump in, to share the depths of his own struggle, but the shadows still loomed large. Each time he considered it, doubt crept in like an unwelcome intruder, silencing his thoughts. Suddenly, Clara broke the spell of contemplation. All right, everyone. After we've written down our messages and secrets, let's share just one thing. A word, a phrase, whatever feels right. So we can start to weave our stories together. Ethan felt his breath hitch. It was time. The moment of truth. As he looked around, he saw faces filled with determination. Ryan was nodding, and Lisa was now beaming, her fear transformed into excitement. As each person stood to share a piece of their heart, it became clear how deeply they resonated with one another. They were diverse yet connected by that painful thread of human experience. Then it was Ethan's turn. He felt the entire room shift slightly, the atmosphere thick with expectation. With each step toward the makeshift podium, he felt the weight of all those unshared words pressing down on his chest. He began, his voice cracking slightly. I've struggled with feeling well, not enough. He glanced at Ryan, who managed a small, encouraging smile. But I've realized we're all in this together. I want to say, strength and honesty, because that's what courage looks like. Being real with ourselves and each other. A soft wave of applause followed. Relief washed over him. Ethan could feel the air shift. He had taken a step closer to freedom. The vulnerability he had so feared had transformed into strength, wrapping around him like a protective cloak. Before the moment could settle, Clara announced, "Let's start putting our messages together on the wall. It's time to create our mural of truth." As they began to piece their thoughts together, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much bigger. The mural would reflect their shared journeys, but it would also echo each unspoken word still lingering beneath the surface. Would they find the courage to face these hidden fears as a group? Or would the fragile connection they had built unravel like a thread in the wind? With every mark made on that wall, Ethan sensed there were even more layers waiting to be uncovered. As the first few phrases began to stick to the wall, the energy shifted. It was like each message was a thread, woven together to form a tapestry of truth and connection. Ethan focused on the bright paper strips, each colored word representing the raw essence of someone's soul. A feeling of hope swelled within him, but it was mingled with curiosity about what else lay beneath the surface. Clara moved from person to person, encouraging each individual to add their message with a reassuring smile. Ethan noticed how she made eye contact, her presence like a lighthouse guiding ships through stormy seas. Each strip they added caused a ripple of emotions, laughter, tears, even an occasional gasp of recognition. "Look at this," Ryan exclaimed, pointing to a phrase that proclaimed, "Courage to be vulnerable." It was simple but powerful. The group gathered around, their heads nodding in agreement. That phrase, along with many others, acted like a magnet, drawing them together in a way they hadn't expected. Ethan stood back and took it all in. It was more than just words on a wall. It was a collective heartbeat. Each heartbeat pounded with unspoken fears and long-held secrets. "Together, we rise," he thought once more, feeling the intensity of the collective hope igniting in the room. But the deeper Ethan looked, the more he felt the longing inside him not just to contribute, but to confront the shadows that he kept hidden for so long. He wanted to dive into the messiness of it all, to bring forth his own truth. Yet, doubt whispered viciously in his ear. What if those words magnified his fears instead? "Ethan," Lisa's gentle voice called out, pulling him back into focus. "Can you help me hang this?" She held out a note that read, "I'm learning to let people in." For a moment, he felt honored she sought his strength. "Of course," he replied, grabbing a piece of tape. As they worked together, their shoulders brushed, almost like an unspoken pact to support one another. With each added phrase, Ethan felt his own resistance chip away. When everyone had placed their messages, Clara stepped back to admire the mural. She took a deep breath, her eyes shining with pride. "This is incredible. Each of you has given a piece of yourselves. This mural is not just an art project. It's our unified strength. I want to celebrate this moment." Applause erupted. A wave of connection washed over Ethan as he clapped alongside everyone else. But then, Clara's voice rose above the applause, solemn yet powerful. "I think it's time to go deeper. I want us to share one last thought that speaks to us as a group. Something we've been holding on to." Ethan's heart thumped against his chest. He felt a compelling urge to speak up, but the shadows loomed large again, whispering the worst, that he might bring the group down or expose himself too much. Still, he couldn't shake the weight of his unrevealed truth. The others began to share again, voices quivering but firm. Ethan listened deeply, absorbing their bravery. Something inside him sparked. "If they can do it, maybe I can too," he thought, the fire in his heart igniting. Just as Ethan prepared to gather his courage, Clara caught his eye and smiled reassuringly. "Ethan, would you like to go next?" All eyes turned to him, the expectant silence ringing in his ears. The moment hung in the air like a finely balanced scale, his heart pounding, suspended between choice and consequence. Would he step into the light and reveal his truth, or retreat into the shadows once more? The decision weighed heavily, filling the space with palpable tension that felt electric. As he opened his mouth to speak, the door creaked open, and a figure stepped into the room, casting a new shadow over their moment of vulnerability. The room collectively gasped. Who had just walked in, and what could they possibly want? The figure stood framed in the doorway, tall, familiar, yet long absent. It was their mother, her presence a wave crashing over the sea of emotions in the room. Ethan's heart dropped. She looked older, wearier, the kind of burden that only parental expectations can engrave into one's being etched deeply onto her face. Mom. Ethan's voice could barely manage a whisper. Beside him, Alex's eyes widened in disbelief. Boys, I've been meaning to come for days, she said, her voice trembling slightly as she stepped farther into the space. I noticed a change in you both, and I realized it was time to confront my own shadows. The room shifted, the previous tension transforming into something palpable, a curious, almost sacred atmosphere. Clara moved to her side, her expression a blend of surprise and joy. What an unexpected blessing, Clara said softly, her eyes twinkling. I'm glad you came. Their mother nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I've watched you two grow, but I see you've been aching for something deeper. I've been so focused on raising you well that I forgot to truly connect with you. Her gaze swept across the mural, pausing on each sentiment, a stark contrast to the years of silence that had shadowed their lives. Ethan's heart pounded harder, the weight of her words twisting within him, each word a thread pulling him back to decisions made, to moments lost. He could feel that shared tapestry of vulnerability urging him to stand. Mom, we've been trying to understand ourselves, our lives. We need you here. With a deep breath, Alex stepped forward, his voice unsteady but strong. You don't have to say everything. Just know we're here, and we want you to join us, to share your truth too. I need to share, she said firmly, looking at her sons with fierce resolve. For far too long, I've kept my fears buried, worrying I wouldn't live up to your expectations. I worried I wasn't good enough. The room remained silent, holding her truth with reverence. Ethan felt a familiar pang of remorse twist in his stomach. Mom, we never expected perfection. We just wanted you. Around them, the participants in the circle began to lean in closer, the fabric of connection weaving tighter as if they were anchoring in this moment together. Clara caught Ethan's eye, encouraging him. Perhaps this is what togetherness truly means, sharing burdens, facing fears, even when it's tough. In that moment, something shifted. A sense of unity enveloped them, no more shouldering burdens alone. As their mother began to reveal her struggles, her own insecurities laid bare, the twins felt a cathartic release. It was raw, it was messy, but it was real. And for the first time, they found the words that had been lost in the chasms of silence. I'm afraid, their mother said. Fear of failing you paralyzed me. I thought success meant keeping you shielded from the pain of life, but I now see my fear prevented us from truly finding each other. Ethan trembled. It felt like breaking down walls, like tearing off the veils they had wrapped around their hearts. This wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about forging a path into the future where they could build on authenticity. That's why we need each other, Ethan said, stepping closer to her. The world is complicated, messy, and painful, but it's also beautiful. Let's face it together. Tears streamed down their mother's face, but there was a newly found strength in her eyes. As she nodded, almost imperceptibly, she stepped into the circle, her sons standing wide, inviting her into a convergence of hands, an embrace of love and understanding that had been yearning to be felt. Alex squeezed her hand. One step at a time, right? Ethan took a moment to breathe in the power of that connection swirling around them. Friends, strangers, family. They were no longer a disjointed bunch. They were a living tapestry, textured and vibrant. Together, we rise, Ethan echoed louder now, stoking the auras of hope ingrained in the room. Together, we will weave this story. Applause erupted, an explosion of emotions pooling amidst their laughter and tears. Thank you, their mother said, her voice steady now, for bringing me back, for reminding me what it means to lift each other up. Clara's eyes glistened as she surveyed the scene, a culmination of transformation and fortitude that rippled through the group. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new journey, she proclaimed, her smile radiating warmth. Ethan clasped his brother's shoulder, feeling a sense of purpose wash over him. They had brought their mother back into their lives not just as a figure of authority, but as a vital part of their growing narrative. And in that gathering, they stood, elbows brushing against the warmth of each other, the beginnings of a bond that could weather any storm. As the night unfolded with shared stories, laughter, and healing, The mural with all its colors and messages took on a life of its own, each word glowing with the weight of truth as it took shape. Secrets shed and fears faced, they began to rewrite the worlds they lived in together. The journey would continue, but for now, they had taken the first giant leap to reclaim the power in vulnerability. And that realization sparked hope, anticipation, and endless possibilities. Could they commit to the path ahead, marching forth knowing that together, truly, they could face anything? Everyone breathed laughter and tears together, embarking on the new journey ahead, sculpting not just a mural, but a true legacy, the kind that connects generations and binds hearts even tighter. The echoes of their revelations reached far beyond their small room. Perhaps they had created a ripple that would touch more lives than they could ever imagine. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let the world feel this transformative energy. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, what touched you the most. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we can change lives.